Education Conference Advisory Committee to the FCC. I'm Tricia Paoletta from Harris, Wiltshire, and Grannis, chairing this meeting. I hope it's the last meeting that we do virtual in this virtual format, and I hope for the fall meeting we'll be able to gather in person. I think that might help progress our work as we enter this second stage, our last 2 years of our prep before the World Radio Conference in 2023. And speaking of it being 2 years in, this, of course, means that soon the FCC will be soliciting applications for membership to the second period of this WAC. So for those of you who are interested in continuing to serve on the WAC for the next 2 years, monitor those notices, and we hope you apply. And speaking of this being kind of a watershed meeting, we will be bidding adieu to Zach Rosenbaum in his chairmanship of the IWG-3, the Informal Working Group 3 on Satellite Services. So we thank Zach for his service of SES to date, and hope he continues to participate in some other format. And of course, we're also going to wish David Goldman of SpaceX farewell as his chair of IWG Informal Work Group 4 and Regulatory also comes to an end. So this would be our last meeting with those guys in chair. We thank them for their service and look forward to a good meeting. Brian, anything to add?
No, I would only also echo the thanks to Zach and to David for their great service, and to all of the folks who come together to have our recommendations for today. So thank you all very much for all the hard work, and look forward to having a very successful meeting.
Thank you. And with that, we're going to pull up the meet. Oh, I'm sorry, Dante.
No, I was just going to pitch it to Dante, but you can pitch it to Dante.
I think it's been pitched.
Okay, thank you very much, Madam Chair and Mr. Vice Chair. I'd like to also welcome everyone to our 5th WAC meeting. And as Tricia said, I hope that everyone is doing well and looking forward to being able to meet in person, hopefully in the very next meeting. With regards to the issue of the recharting, I also wanted just to add to what Tricia said, in that we will soon be recharting the WAC for another 2-year period. We're required to renew it every 2 years. And so as part of that, our OGC requirement is to have all of the membership reapply, as well as adding any new members who are interested. So we will be coming out with the FCC public notice sometime in the very near future. So please pay attention to that. We'll also make sure everyone is aware of that. We'll send out an email via the WAC reflectors for those of you who are already members. We will also be taking care of the WAC membership. We will be updating, of course, the membership lists so that we have all of that information updated on the webpage. That's all I wanted to add. Back to you, Madam Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Dante. Okay, at this point, we're going to pull up the agenda of the meeting. I guess it's on the screen. Can I hear approval for the agenda?
This is Bob Weller. I move approval of the agenda.
Thank you, Bob.
Second.
Thank you. All right, the agenda is approved, and we will continue on. Brian?
All righty. Next up is the approval of the minutes of the 4th meeting, which was held on September 28th, 2021. All WAC members should have copies of the draft minutes, provided them in advance. Are there any concerns or edits with the minutes? All right, hearing none, do I have a motion to approve the minutes?
Brennan Price and Marsad, I move to approve.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
It's Amy Alvarez. I second.
Thank you, Amy. Any opposing views? All right, the minutes are adopted, and we now move on to work 23 preparations. Back to the chair.
Okay, thank you, Brian. All right, Dante, perhaps you can give us the work preparation update from the FCC's perspective.
Yes, thank you very much, Madam Chair. And with regards, of course, to our own preparations, once we conclude this meeting, any approved recommendations coming from your committee will be forwarded, of course, to the FCC. We will be putting those approved recommendations out for a 2-week public notice right after the conclusion of this meeting. That will allow anyone to review them and also provide any comments and inputs as part of our process. And after that 2-week period, I will probably take about a 1-week period to coordinate any of those recommendations coming from the WAC with the NTIA. I'll be working with Mr. Glass to see if we can reconcile those WAC proposals against any coming from the RCS on these any related topics. And as I said, that usually will take about a week, and hopefully we will get those reconciled and adopted as US inputs going into the next CTEL PCC2 meeting that's coming up at the end of April, and we will address the schedule there towards the end of your meeting agenda. That's all I wanted to provide updates on. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Dante. And do we have Mr. Charles Glass with us from NTIA to provide the NTIA update?
You do, Madam Chair, and good morning to everyone.
Good morning.
It is nice to see your face. So from the NTIA standpoint, as Dante laid out the process, I won't go over that, but we are turning on the RCS side towards proposals, as you've seen under item 5, and as I believe the WAC has also started doing. I would point out that we have CPM deadlines fast approaching. So that is going to lend some matter of urgency towards developing our proposals going forward, not for this upcoming CTEL meeting, but for the next one. So hopefully we can accelerate our work somewhat there. But that also brings up the topic of future conference agenda items. So we need to be thinking about those now so that we can start preparing those in the near future and starting to work on those. We will be holding separate meetings on the RCS side to consolidate the government inputs on those and getting those over to you within, I would say, the next 9 months. With that, Madam Chair, I will turn it back over to you. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate that, Charles. Yeah, it's a good reminder that it's later than we think. And I understand for most of the study groups in Geneva under the ITUR side, right, that they do have deadlines of this October to complete their studies and complete the CPM text. So as Charles says, that it's getting more and more timely to have proposals that we'll send to CTEL. So thanks for that encouragement to increase the cadence of our work. And now I will turn it back to Brian.
Great, and Charles is up again with NTIA draft preliminary reviews and proposals. So I turn it over to you on some RCS recommendations, please.
Thank you. So in our letter, we provide 2 draft proposals and 1 preliminary view. The draft proposals are for agenda item 1.5, which is a no change proposal, and for agenda item 9, issue 9.1 topic C, which is also a no change proposal. And our preliminary view is for agenda item 10, which is a housekeeping item for us at this point, addressing the non-safety aeronautical mobile applications. I don't think any of these are terribly controversial. Hopefully the WAC has had time to consider them sufficiently, and we look forward to being able to reconcile these to go forward to CTEL. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Charles. Back to you, Tricia.
All right, now we're going to turn to the reports of the IWG groups, and I think you're going to manage the first one. Oh, no, I am. I'm sorry. So the first informal working group is Maritime, and we have our the chair of the IWG1 here with us, I hope. Damon, are you on?
I am.
All right, take it away.
Okay, thanks, Tricia, and good morning, everyone. So this is IWG1. We deal with maritime, aeronautical, and radar services. We've had 3 meetings since the last WAC, and I will go down each of the agenda items that we are responsible for and give everyone a brief update of where we are. The first one is agenda item 1.6 that deals with suborbital vehicles. We have a proposal that was presented by Iridium to that group. Quite a bit of discussion on the proposal that's tabled. We're also working in the ITR forum with the federal agencies on CPM text, where we have a couple of options. So we're looking forward to see where the U.S. comes out in that, and that will inform our proposal. For agenda item 1.7, that deals with VHF AMSRS in the 117 to 137 megahertz band. We have an updated preliminary view for this agenda item that points out some of the existing aeronautical terrestrial use in the band that any new allocations must protect. And you will find that in document 42, which we're presenting to the WAC for approval today. We also have agenda item 1.8, which deals with unmanned aeronautical systems. We don't have any proposal on that agenda item yet. There's quite a bit of work going on in ITUR Working Party 5B, and our coordinator for that group, Mr. Kotler, believes we'll have something more on that after the next meeting of ITUR Working Party 5B. Next, we have agenda item 1.9 that deals with wideband HF for aeronautical systems. Previously, we presented a preliminary view that was approved. That resides in CTEL, and at this time, we don't have any further work on that agenda item. Next, we have agenda item 1.10, which is non-safety aeronautical mobile service, which Mr. Glass mentioned. We received that at the last meeting of our group. There was some discussion, some concerns raised, and at this time, I don't believe IWG-1 is in a position to endorse that preliminary view from NTI, so we'll be doing further work on that. And then finally, we have agenda item 1.11. The work we're doing deals with an additional satellite provider for the GMDSS. Previously, we presented a preliminary view, which the WAC approved, and that also resides in CTEL. And we'll progress that work as we go forward. So I believe that is it for IWG-1. Unless my co-chair, Kim Kolb, is on and has anything else to add, I conclude my remarks. Thank you.
Thanks for that review of all the agenda items, but you do have a document for WAC's consideration, don't you?
That's right. I mentioned that. That's for agenda item 1.7 that deals with VHF AMSRS, and that is document 42, WAC document 42. And we give that to you for the group's approval. Thanks, Tricia.
Thank you, Damon. All right. We have it up on the screen, document 42, the preliminary view on 1.7. Are there any comments on this preliminary view from IWG-1? And thanks for scrolling through it. All right, if no comments, can the meeting approve this document for forwarding to the FCC as a WAC recommendation? Very good. I see no opposition, so we will forward this document as a WAC recommendation. Congratulations, Damon, and the rest of IWG-1 for getting a document for us to send forward. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Tricia.
All right, with that, we'll move on to Working Group 2, Terrestrial Services, for a status report. And we have two documents, documents 43 and 44. And I turn it over to Ms. Stankiewicz.
Thanks, Brian. So we've had 3 meetings of IWG2 since the last WAC meeting. Previously, we had provided draft PVs for WAC consideration for all of the agenda items under our remit, with the exception of 9.2 and agenda item 10, and those typically are much later in the process, as well as 9.1.c, and you'll see that here today. So during the 3 meetings, we did consider the various agenda items under our remit. For today's meeting, we do have one draft proposal in document 43 with respect to agenda item 1.2 on the 6 gigahertz band. And then we also have a draft preliminary review on 9.1 topic C in document 44. When we get to that, I would like the opportunity to just walk the group through some discussions we've had on document 44 and where we are with respect to the document for approval today. And with respect to the documents from the RCS for agenda item 1.5, the draft proposal, we received it right before our last meeting. So we've reviewed it, but we will have some edits to that, and we'll consider that as soon as we start the next cycle after the CTEL meeting. And for 9.1.c on the draft proposal, we decided instead, the meeting agreed to go with a draft preliminary review instead. And so the deposition of that is the draft preliminary review that we have in document 44. So with that, if we want to go to the documents for approval, but I would like the opportunity when we get to document 44 to walk the group through what we've done at the IWG2 level and what we have for approval. So the first document would be 43.
That sounds great, Jane.
Okay, so if we can go to document 43 first, maybe. So this is with respect to agenda item 1.2, which is considering identification for IMT. There are multiple bands under consideration for agenda item 1.2. This one in particular deals with 6425 to 7025 and 7025 to 7125 megahertz. The other bands are not included in this document. It only applies to a subset of the bands under consideration. And this document was agreed at the IWG2 level for consideration at the WAC.
Do we have any comments on document 43? Do I have a motion to approve? Jane,
I'll make the motion to approve document 43.
are there any objections? All right, document 43 is adopted. I'm going to move on to 44.
Okay, and so in document 44, as I said, we had looked at the RCS draft proposal, but decided to go with a draft preliminary review instead. And if you can just stay at the note here at the top. So the formatting of the document is modification to the existing preliminary review under consideration in PCC2 at this time. But I want to highlight in particular the next paragraph in the note in italics. So at the IWG2 level, we reached consensus on the document with the exception of the last 2 sentences. Those were in square brackets at the end of the last IWG2 meeting. And we had urged the interested parties to see if they could reach consensus on those last 2 sentences. There was an offline meeting after the last IWG2 where all interested parties were available and discussed through those sentences, and we were able to reach agreement. They were circulated to the entire IWG2 on February 7th, and to date we have not received any concerns or objections. So we did try to make sure everybody saw those by circulating them on the IWG2 reflector, but I'm pleased to report that we were able to reach consensus. So if we could scroll down to those last 2 sentences. So this is the preliminary review. So the 2 sentences in highlighting are, the last 2 sentences were shown in square brackets. The track changes that you see here are the changes that were agreed in the interested party discussion to see if we could reach consensus, and we did. So whoever is controlling the screen, Alan, if you could show this now in final view. So that was what was at the last IWG2. And then what you see now is what we would propose That's the result of the offline interested party discussion, and that was circulated to the entire IWG2. So what we would be seeking is to approve this document with the changes here accepted. And so this is what would go forward out of the WAC. The preliminary review, everything else is the same as the earlier document, but with these modifications here are the ones that were where we reached consensus on this. So if we could get approval of these two sentences, and I think there was one other issue that somebody had wanted to raise with respect to some editorial changes earlier in the document, but I wanted to make sure everybody saw these two sentences that had been circulated to IWG2.
All righty, any discussion, concerns, or perhaps the other edits that were flagged? Editorial edits, or sorry, ministerial edits. Zach?
Yep, thank you, and I appreciate Jane's introduction. I had no issues with the United States view. The only editorial that I was recommending to make is in the background of the document. It should be purely editorial. I've tried to work offline with a few folks on this. It's in that paragraph, Alan, you scroll to the second page where it says Source USA. Correct, right here. Or well, say I think it's a little bit further down. I'm sorry, on the second page. Yeah, under issues. I guess it's issues, not background. So halfway through the third sentence, where it says this WRC-23 agenda item presents an opportunity, I was looking at an editorial change here. It kind of starts halfway through this sentence, and I can dictate it if you like, or I can paste it in the chat. I don't know what the best way to send that to you is, but it would read.
Why don't you just for everybody, why don't you do both?
Sure. Okay. So what it would read, the new sentence would read, new or revised reports and or recommendations could be developed to reflect the current state of fixed wireless broadband technologies, including that of IMT. So it would strike the first part of this sentence all the way up to these and including these. So if you can highlight this all the way up to recommendations, it would strike that and insert new or revised reports and or recommendations. And then it would continue on. Just after recommendations, it would insert could be developed. And then the rest of the sentence carries on as it is. And if you want to see it in track, yeah, if you could show it in the markup so folks could see it on the scene. Yeah, it would look like, oh yeah, that's what it looked like at the end. But that was my proposal. Thank you very much.
Comments or discussion? Excuse me.
Brian, just editorially, Alan, if you could put a slash between and or, that's the more typical formatting.
Other discussion or concerns about this or the document in general? All right, hearing no concerns, the document is adopted or forwarded as final. Anything else from you, Jane?
I just wanted to thank the membership for working forward on this.
I'm sorry, Jane, to interrupt you. Just to get back to Alan. Alan, you need to show those in track changes, please. Because the document, if submitted to CTEL, has to reflect new track changes. Apologies for interrupting.
Alan has a tough job. I think we can all stipulate. All right, back to you, Jane.
Yeah, and Dante, I can help to make sure that we have the correct version here in terms of the text going up out of this. I've taken some notes here as well. But Brian, I just wanted to thank the membership. We've reached the more challenging time of the cycle now, and from here on out, it will be more intense in my experience. So I wanted to thank the membership for being able to reach agreement on these documents, and look forward to continued collaboration and trying to get through some very difficult issues. So thanks to the members.
Thank you. And I would add my thank you to everyone for working hard to get to where we are able to forward this document, and concur that that spirit will be super important as we move ahead. So time for Working Group 3 in Space Services. Tricia?
Okay, thank you, Brian. And again, thank you, Jane and Dante, for working hard on that IWG2 preliminary review. Okay, Zach, you are now up in your role as chair. Your final presentation as chair at IWG3. Let me turn it over for you for your status report.
Thanks very much, Tricia, or Madam Chair, sorry. So we had 3 meetings as IWG3. They were well attended by both members and observers. We received 2 proposals, and we were able to conclude our work on one of them, which you'll see a little bit later in document 45 for agenda item 1.18. We also received proposal for 1.17, but just due to the nature of the complexity of 1.17, we were unable to complete our work on that. So it was tabled with the expectation that the members will contribute more to that in our next session of IWG, or next sequence of IWG3 meetings, where both proponents and perhaps concerned parties will be able to engage on that agenda item more fully and prepare a proposal for the WAC to consider. And with that, I would conclude my, status report, and happy to introduce document 45 unless there are questions on the status report.
Are there any questions on Zach's status report? Seeing or hearing none, I guess you can move to your presentation of your informal working group's preliminary proposal.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. So this document 45 is for agenda item 1.18. It's pretty straightforward in that it's a no change proposal for these potential new MSS allocations for narrowband MSS use in the frequency bands under this resolution. It's a good collaboration with a number of parties to create this, and I would offer it up for approval at your meeting. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Are there any comments on this proposed preliminary proposal? Or no change? Okay, hearing none, this document is approved by the WAC for forwarding to the FCC as our recommendation. So thank you, Zach, for your work on this and your work to date, and congratulations on getting one of the few preliminary proposals from the WAC out the door. We appreciate that. And I'll turn it over to Brian.
All right, and it is my pleasure for the last time on this stage. It's the head of Working Group 4 on regulatory issues, the irrepressible Mr. Goldman. Oh, David.
Did he leave our confab early?
Maybe he found my introduction so troubling that he decided to take off on us.
He's
Dante,
present, but I don't. There he goes. He's unmuted now.
Yeah, sorry about that. Having a little technical problems there. So can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes, we can.
Great, thanks. So we have had, I can be really fast. We've had 3 meetings since the last WAC, but we do not at this point have any proposals or anything for the WAC to consider. So we've been well attended, but so far I think the good work is ahead of us.
Very good. Thank you. And thank you again, David, for your service. Now to you, Tricia, to discuss future meetings.
Okay, well, thank you. And David, it seems like your timing was perfect. All the hard work is coming next. But anyway, thank you for pitching in while you did. And yeah, now our next item is 7, future meetings. And I think we're going to hear from Dante about the timeline going into our last 2 years as we prepare for the World Radio Conference.
Yes, thank you very much, Tricia. And yeah, so the timeline here is updated based on the prep timelines coming from both the ITOR as well as the CTEL PCC2 schedule. As you can see right now, we're in the midst of a big groups, a set of block groups that are going to be meeting in the I2R right now, Working Party 5D. We have the Study Group 6 block, including Task Group 6.1, which is dealing with Agenda Item 1.5. If you scroll down a little bit more, Alan, you can see some of the more other groups dealing with terrestrial issues, such as Working Party 5B. Please note that some of these groups are actually holding these extraordinary meetings. These are additional meetings in addition to their normal meetings that they had previously scheduled. So, for example, Working Party 5 Bravo will meet in late March on the 29th to address issues related to their WRC-23 items. And similarly, Working Party 5 Delta will meet in mid-April on the 19th to also address several WRC-23 items. This is, again, in order to dedicate specific time for those WRC-23 agenda items studies, as well as trying to progress the draft CPM text that each of those groups are responsible for. And you can notice there on the 25th of April through the 29th of April, we have our next PCC2 meeting number 39. Right now, it's planned for Mexico. Some of you who are on the PCC2 CTEL reflector may have noticed a recent message coming from the Secretariat seeking views as to who will be able to attend in person. So Mexico can try to plan the meeting if it's going to be held in person. We've heard some countries have indicated that they're ready, but others may not be. So there may be some upcoming updates on regarding the scheduling of this meeting in Mexico. So please stay tuned. I also understand that the State Department is also carefully reviewing this PCC2 circular to see how we want to respond. So if you do have any inputs on that, please certainly contact Paul Najarian at State Department. Or if you'd like, contact myself or Charles Glass. I'm sure that either one of the three will get the information together in order to look at how we want to respond to that CTEL circular. Just going forward down into the schedules, Alan, if you could keep going, you can see the Study Group 7 block is meeting there through April and into May. And then the Study Group 4 block, which is the satellite issues, are also meeting. And so, again, these groups are all going to be meeting literally one right after the other. So the work will pick up, and as I think several have stated today, we are going to be shifting right into the proposal development based on some of the progress made in these groups on their WRC-23 studies. So we certainly will need to be prepared for our next round of WAC meetings and IWG meetings. So scrolling all the way down to the schedule, right now we have tentatively penciled in the 6th of September, but we're going to announce this at a later time to confirm this. We also have to note that if meetings do return to physical meetings in the fall, let's say, for example, the ITU meetings, that some of these meetings, most of you will be attending them. Like, for example, in mid-September, you'll see, or early September through September and October, you'll see again the groups will be ramping up for meetings. And if these are physical, we don't want to schedule a WAC on top of those because we know that if they're in person, many of you will be traveling. So our plan right now is to try to perhaps look at an early September date. The 6th was one idea. We may even shift it to maybe late August, depending on scheduling. So please just, we'll keep you informed, and please look for any further announcements on this WAC date. And certainly we'll try to get that out soon to allow the IWGs and for Trish and Brian to work to organize our next preparatory scheduling. And I think that concludes the timeline. Oh, just one last thing on just noting at the end there, towards the end in October, on the 31st on Halloween, the next PCC2 meeting after this one, number 40, is scheduled, and I believe that has been confirmed right now. It's the host country will be Trinidad and Tobago. Again, certainly, given the situation, we will see how that progresses in terms of it being a physical meeting. That's all I wanted to highlight in the schedule. Certainly, if there are any questions, be happy to take them. Thank you.
Are there any questions to our DFO on the schedule? I'll just reiterate the document number is 46 for those of you who might want to access it after this meeting or later, throughout the cycle on the FCC's WAC website, since it's chock full of important information. All right, well, thank you for that, Dante, and looks like we're going to be continuing to work hard, particularly you and your team at the FCC. All right, I'll turn it over to you, Brian.
Great, thank you. Just a reminder for everyone who participated in today's meeting to email that you were here to WRC-23@fcc.gov so we can have a record of your attendance to memorialize that appropriately. Are there any other business or any other comments people want to share? Okay, hearing none, back to you, Madam Chair.
Okay, well, thank you, and thank you all for your participation and your hard work over the last few months at this point, and of course, good luck with the hard work ahead of us. Thank you very much, and with that, I'll close the meeting.
Thanks,
Thank you
everybody.
very much.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thanks, Tricia, Brian, and Dante.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you.